name's Dave Thompson. I'm one of the partners in Steckler, Cohen and Thompson. We handled the lawsuit, Pete versus City of New York, which the settlement of that case is what this press conference was about. Basically, the purpose of holding a press conference is that, part of the value of these cases is, continuing what Occupy was doing by other means. One of the great things, perhaps the greatest thing that Occupy has done to date was change the conversation about income inequality, about the way in which power, political and economic, is allocated in this country. And, what we're trying to do through this case and others like it in our office is to change the conversation about the policing of political protest in New York City. We believe that, first of all, it's remarkable to me, having seen a lot of cases involving Occupy, how committed to nonviolence, how committed to, compliance with the law the Occupy Wall Street protesters were, despite significant provocation that might have led them to choose a different path. And we believe that where you have protesters who have so emphatically chosen nonviolent protest in, complete compliance with their duties as citizens and the First Amendment of the Constitution, those protests should be allowed 100% of the time. And that's what we're trying to get done.
And it shows also with this case and so many others during when the Occupy movement was going on, it shows, and still continuing now, it shows how the police use their tactics to arrest people in protests or marches. If you could get into that, for people who aren't familiar with how, when people assume that they're arrested, they must be doing something wrong, but in this case, it's actually because of abusing different laws that they use, if you could get into that.
Sure. Well, I think I mentioned during the conference itself that the majority of protesters who are arrested for things that are technically not even crimes. They are violations, blocking the sidewalk allegedly, blocking pedestrian traffic allegedly. And these are inherently nonviolent acts. They cause at most, even if they happen, inconvenience. Right? So the appropriate police response would be very minimal, because the violation is itself, if it's even occurring, minimal. That's not what we see. This case was a smaller version in terms of the number arrested of the Brooklyn Bridge case. Brooklyn Bridge was a trap and arrest on a grand scale. The police led 700 people onto the bridge span, stopped them midway, and trapped them from the rear, and then arrested all of them. And in this case, our plaintiffs were walking along a sidewalk where they were allowed to be, actually following directions from the police to continue walking along that sidewalk. When they were stopped, officers behind them blocked their means of leaving, and they were all arrested. This trap and arrest tactic is something that we've seen again and again in Occupy cases. It seems to be a preferred NYPD method of dealing with protest. It's utterly illegal, and it has to stop. I think the Brooklyn Bridge case is actually a good, I won't say a good example because it was a terrible thing, but if you look at that case, they trapped 700 people on a span 135 feet above a cold river. The fact that no one was killed is remarkable. The fact that no one was killed is wholly due to the fact that the protesters present were completely compliant, completely nonviolent, did not panic, and were very disciplined. The police should be thanking their lucky stars that the protesters are as committed to what's right as they in fact are.
And it continues too with different cases like this, the importance of either live streaming, filming, keeping police accountable, and even in this case, if you could get into that, how much of an effect that was on this case?
It had an enormous effect. There's a live streamer, by the name of Tim Poole, who videotaped a great deal of what happened on that night and other occasions as well. His video was instrumental in showing that the activities of the police were unlawful. He filmed the arrests. One of our clients also had made some film. There was some film that other people posted to YouTube that was instrumental because it showed what happened. And so the live streamers out there were a big part of the case, and we thank them.
And one more thing, wrap it up here. It shows with different cases like this the chilling effect, that to stifle dissent, to prevent people from getting into trial, exposing what's going on with the NYPD. If you could get into that and how much of an effect that has in getting real justice for people who were wrongfully arrested.
Well, yeah, I think there's definitely a chilling effect, and you can see it. I mean, Occupy Wall Street does not do as many street activities as it used to do, and I think this is, one of the effects of there having been 2,600 Occupy arrests in Manhattan alone. People are afraid that if they go to an event, they will be arrested no matter whether they obey the law or they do not. And it's that uncertainty that deters people. I've used the metaphor in the past that if the NYPD arrested every 100th person who went to Macy's, right, people would stop going to Macy's pretty quickly. It would be deserted. And that's basically what they have done with Occupy. If you go to an Occupy event, no matter what you're doing, you can't be sure whether you're going to be arrested or not. And that's an important thing for us to stop.
Cecily has been indicted for the felony of assaulting a police officer. The allegation is that Cecily struck a police officer in the area right...
And that often has a chilling effect on protest, on free speech, which is something that, Occupy Wall Street, there may be different opinions on a lot of things, but I think free expression is something that is pretty universally stood for.